And we are live. Hello, hello, everybody. It's the Beat Brothers. How you doing? What's up, Bryce? How you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. Just relaxing, chilling. Sunday afternoon, Sunday, I guess evening now. But yeah, just chilling,
Yeah, evening in the East
making some
Coast.
music.
It's getting
Yeah,
close to evening in the West Coast too.
yeah, yeah. So,
Totally.
so yeah, just chilling, man.
Yeah,
What's
sweet.
going on with you? How you doing?
Doing good. Had some family time, had some music time, and now we're about to have some video time talking about drums and stuff, man.
Yeah, man. So drums. Uh, man, it's a vast topic, I guess, right?
Yeah, but it's an important one, right? Like if we're making beats and if we're
Right.
making hip hop or lo-fi or something within that realm, usually electronic music a lot of times, you know, you gotta it's a big focus. It's important, like how do your drums sound? It's not like you listen to old, like, rock and roll songs from the 60s or something, or you listen to a lot of other genres of music, and it's like, well, yeah, the drums are important for sure. You got your famous drum players, but there's I don't think there's such a focus, as much of a focus on exactly how do your drums sound in other types of music generally than hip hop and maybe lo-fi and stuff.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And for me, drums have been a bit. I mean, drums are always important, but lately, one of the main things that I've really been focusing on when it comes to my drums is the mix and where my drums sit in the overall spectrum of everything. So for years I used to be like, man, my snare has to crack like, God, hit you in the
Mhm.
chest like hard every time, right?
Yeah.
So in relation to the full mix, you'd pull down everything, lower the volume of everything, and the snare would be probably the loudest point of my music. But lately, I've been like, man, you know what? And I'd say this is about the past year and a half or so. I think more about uh, the grand scheme of things, not just the snare being the most prevalent aspect of a mix. And so it's really affected my mixes and how I approach, drums.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's, one of the title names for the kind of music you and I both come from is like that boom bap era. And obviously boom bap, like it's right there. Boom bap, original rap, like you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
KRS One, the what was it, the return of the boom bap. Like it's a big deal. It's important that the drums really kick in there. Another one, we were talking about Tribe Called Quest. I love that part where Q-Tip is like, what is he? He's like kick, snare, hits, and hi hats. Like he says something like that, and it's just like it's just in there. You hear rappers talk about it. You hear all kinds of different things, and it's just important sonically for hip hop for the drums to hit in a certain way, and
Right.
a bunch of different approaches. But now things have evolved, like with lo-fi and stuff,
Right. Right. Right.
and it seems like the boom bap is still there, but it's subdued, and it's become more of part of the mix. You're talking about the mix, so
Yeah.
it's evolved, but it's still an important part of what we do, right?
It is. It is. So let me ask you, what do you think of when it comes to drums, and how do you approach your drum work?
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, and we were talking about this earlier today, but to me, what's important is, you know, the thing is, for me, I feel like drums are so important, but at the same time, I haven't focused on them like I'd like to sometimes. And so, but there's a certain thing that I like with my drums is I like them to be like really kind of crunchy, a little bit dirty. I don't need like super clean, pristine drums. It's just not what I super am into. And so I like kind of Drum breaks, but chopping the drum breaks to a certain point, and maybe even mixing up a couple different drum breaks, and maybe pitching part of it down, putting other ones in a different, like EQing maybe the hi hats differently or whatever. And I like it to kind of have like some of the ambience of the room it might be in, all that kind of thing. Like it brings like some extra character, and I also like my drums to be a little bit like off kilter, like not straight, like quantized. And speaking about that, actually, man, the way you do your drums is like I think you use more one shots typically. I don't think you typically use drum breaks as much as I would like to sometimes. But you know how to get that swing. I remember telling, we talking about, your drums and being like, man, it sounds like I'm hearing like pots and pans and stuff. And I don't
Yeah.
know, like you have a certain way that you put your drums that's just, it's like kind of distinctly, upright drums, how do you approach it, man?
Um, yeah, it's a lot of one shots. I'm not against loops at all, like drum loops. I'm not opposed to drum loops in the context of one shots. Like so, like definitely have to have a a kick a kick on a pad, and a snare on a pad. But then like yeah, some hi hat loops and um, different elements of loops where their notes are being played. Um, I definitely love all that stuff. So
Hmm.
it just depends, man. And I think drum programming just becomes one of those things that's like it's kind of something you develop, and it's something that kind of characterizes you as a beat maker slash producer kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is too is like I feel like all my life making beats, I've worked mostly in DAWs, and even though I know what, some different techniques, I always feel like I'm fighting against the quantize, I've always wanted it to sound more lively, and obviously we hear about, people like Dilla and stuff who really kind of found ways to make it seem more lively and less kind of robotic and right
Mhm.
on the quantize. But I've been doing that since before I even knew who Dilla was. Not as successfully,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like and still to this day, sometimes I struggle with it, and I don't know why, because it's obvious. Like you could take, like, I don't know, one technique that I would do sometimes is like maybe have the snare still hit like right on the mark, but then maybe take like the hi hats and I'd play them normal. And then in a DAW, you can do this a lot easier. And you take the whole like track of just hi hats and you just nudge it a little bit to the side.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll
Yep.
do like that kind of thing. I heard
Yeah.
people talk about like Jay Dilla. I think you showed me a video. Somebody was talking about Jay Dilla where it sounded like they put the snare right on the perfect spot, but it sounded like a drunk child was like doing the kicks or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, like I play everything in. Like I don't quantize anything. I don't move any. Well, I'll move certain things where I feel like okay, I may have gotten this note or this snare a little out of time, so I'll adjust it. But I don't rely on the grid at all. Like everything I play in is how I want it to sound. And not that there's anything wrong with relying on the grid or swing settings in an app, but it's just how I prefer to get the feel that I want.
Hmm.
And so I just play everything in without any sort of quantize. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, like yeah, when it comes to like people like Jay Dilla and like when you're talking about swing, yeah, I mean, there's a million ways to approach getting swing for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think I'm still trying to find that, because I guess the thing is I would quantize like the snare sometimes, or a certain element, just because like if I played it myself, it would always be a little bit off. But
Mhm.
now, I'm realizing that that little bit off is actually something that makes it sound kind of cool, you know. So I'm trying to embrace that, but then sometimes I'll intentionally try to do that, and then it won't still sound good. Like so, I'm
Mm,
like, you know, you
yeah, yeah. No, I know what you mean. I've heard a lot of people kind of try to get this off kiltered sound or like this swing sound, and they're trying too hard, you know,
Mhm.
to be like not accurate or not play things in as they should. And realistically, you want what's in your head to play in the track. So for me, when I'm programming drums, it's like I know what I want it to do in the track. And so that's exactly what I want it to sound like. So some people, you know, and I've heard this, I think a lot of people though just play things kind of weird, like they don't really even know what they're intending to play just to make it sound kind of sloppy. And that doesn't always translate to, you know, a dope drum groove. But if you know what you're hearing in your head and you can play it, then you can make sure it sounds exactly like that when you do it in your DAW or your MPC or whatever, you know. And I think like it's not just sloppy drums. It sounds good. There's, you know, a lot of people think, oh man, let me just make my drums sloppy and they'll sound good, like, or out of time. Like I'm not really, you know, and that's not really it. It's just it's really having an intentional groove that translates into your music that you can actually play.
Yeah.
You know,
So let me ask you this: does when you're playing your drums in, do you like finger drum it, like play the whole beat, or do you play the snare, then you play the kicks, then you play the hi hats, or how do you do
well,
that?
usually I'll can you hear that? No.
A little bit. Yeah.
So I'll play in the snare and the hi hat, or the snare and the kick. Man, my latency's down. So anyway, but yeah, I'll generally play in the snare and the kick together, and then I'll add the hats afterwards.
Okay.
So yeah,
You know, I've done that before too, actually, and I have found that there's something about that that feels more natural.
right.
And so that yeah, I might have to try doing that more often.
Yeah, yeah. That's usually what I do. And you know, so I'll play the kick and the snare in, get that groove, and then, or I might start with the hats. It just depends. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So
What
what
about you?
about
What about you? How do you approach drum programming usually?
yeah, like I said, I've tried a lot of different things. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. When I'm struggling too much, and this is, you know, this is another thing. There's the kind of the approach of doing your drums first and then starting to find your samples and layer that after. I've personally felt better getting the sample first and then trying to play it to whatever chops or whatever that I put in there. But I'm still having a hard time with that sometimes. And a lot of times, I will try to put in, you know, program my drums however I do it, and then I'll still not be getting that live feel or that
Hmm.
organic feel that I want. And
Yeah.
I'll try to find a drum break, you know, and I'll resort to that. And unfortunately, sometimes the drums become a second kind of a second thought for me. I'm more
Mm.
focused on all the other elements, and I feel like that's doing a disservice, you know, to my beat. And I feel like if I put a little bit more time into the drums, then that's when they sound a lot better, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Let me redeem my drum stroke here. So there we go. Can you hear that?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So anyway, I just wanted to show that I can actually play a kick in the snare.
You know what I love, man? Like just seeing you do that, like I'm thinking like there's been so many times. So like I'm so excited about, the SP MK2, SP 404 MK2 specifically for the skip back, because
Yeah.
I've done that
Yeah.
so many times and I'm like, yes, that's what I want. And then I
Right.
go to play it and I just don't
And
play. I
yeah.
can't play it like that again.
Right. Right. Yeah. That skip back is going to be really dope. Yeah. I agree. I agree. And we were talking earlier about the MK2 as far as drums go, just the amount of customization you're going to be able to do to your drums. Just like the SP, for those that don't know, and for those that haven't kind of spent a lot of time in the SP, man, you can really customize your drums in the SP.
Hmm.
The compression, the EQ, the filtering, just the
Yeah.
lo-fi vibes that you can get. And not only that, but with the new SP, you'll have those envelopes. So
Yeah.
customizing kits and making your own drum kits is going to be super dope, which is another point on topic, specific drum sounds. Like, how do you feel about your own drum sounds? How do you feel about customizing sounds to make them your own? Like, are you the type of person that can just say, okay, send me a kit and I'm gonna rock with it? Or do you find yourself kind of tweaking every little aspect? For me, I'm the type of person, man, it has to sound the way I'm hearing it in my head before I'm using those drums. You know what I mean? And that's just, I guess that's kind of like just something I've developed over the years. It's like, man, my drums have to sound the way I want them to sound before I can use them. I can't just use any vanilla kit. I mean, and feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I mean, I think in this aspect, as beat makers, even not just with drums, but in general, I think this is definitely a place where you and I differ.
Mm,
And, and I think that's really, again, like all these, that's why I said like drum approaches, and stuff in this, because all of them are valid, for sure.
yeah.
And to me, like the way you do it, it's like, I feel like that's like somebody who kind of knows where they want to go with the beat. And you've talked to me before about how you worked a lot on your drums to the point where now you've gotten to a place where you know how you want your drums to sound. Like this
Right.
is what your goal was, you got there. Now you
Yeah.
focus on another aspect, you focus on your guitar playing and
Right.
things like that.
Yep.
So your drums, you've kind of locked that in. This is the upright way of doing, this is the way you do drums,
Right.
which
Right.
is really dope. For me, I'm just not like that. To me, it's like I do stuff, I get lost in the sound design of it, and whatever it becomes is what it ends up being. That's why I
Mm,
like, today I actually released Beat Sketches Volume 3, which you can get in Bandcamp.
yeah.
There's a link in the description. But like the thing is like if you listen to that, like I don't think you can really tell like from one beat to the other, oh, this is a Plex beat. This is just like it just sounds like there's a lot of different things going on. Each
Hmm.
beat sounds kind of different, and
Yeah.
I'm using different drum sounds and stuff. But
Right.
I would like to hone in somehow to a little bit of a sound. But I get lost in sound design, and I just enjoy it too much. And but I
But
think there
not
is
so much on the drum side. Not so much on the drum side. Sound design on the melody side is what you're talking about.
no
Less sound design.
on everything really, but I don't the sound design I think is a different approach for me than it is for you. So like for me, I'll start layering drums. I'll pull
Okay.
drums down, the pitch down a lot, and then like
Yeah.
I don't know, just the layering and stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then do all kinds of stuff. And sometimes I'll use sounds and I'm like, it's funny, I think I've sent you a beat or two once in a while where I'm like, okay, here's this beat, it's kind of abstract and weird, but let me know what you think. And you'll be like, you've said this a couple times, you're like, yeah man, it was dope. And I was just waiting for the drums to kick in and they never did. And I'm like, well, there is drums in there, but it's a different kind of percussive thing. I'm not
Yeah.
really doing typical drums.
Yeah. And I'm not mad at that at all.
No,
I'm not
no,
mad
I
at that
know.
at all. Yeah. 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 It's just, yeah, no, that's just your expression. But yeah, man, it's interesting when it comes to drums. And I think the fact that you layer stuff and do things in that way is definitely like a sound design kind of aspect to, doing your drums. Like for me, I'll do a lot of envelope stuff. I'll add some transient designers, EQ, filtering, all that stuff, because, the kick has to sound a certain way. The snare has to sound a certain way. Hi-hats have to sound a certain way. So all of that, matters to, the track for
Well,
me.
actually, I will say, like what you're saying, like I actually like I have been, staying away from DAWs for the most part, not because I have any problem with them, but just because I'm tired of being in a DAW. That's what I've done my whole life. And, but one thing I am missing, I use Koala a lot, and Koala's great. It's actually amazing for sound design for a lot of reasons, but one thing it doesn't really have is great EQs. It's kind of
Mhm.
got this tone thing. It's got some, a filter. Like there's some things you can do, but they're like kind of workarounds more than anything. And the
Uh,
SP didn't really have that either until now, But the SP now, like you said, it has the envelopes, it has the EQs, plus of
yep.
course the other effects and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to getting back into the EQ world with my drums and with my sounds and stuff, because lately it's been modular, which is all over the place, and there is some EQing because I have squid samples, so that's like they do have some kind of stuff in there, and there's just some EQ type stuff in some of the modules, but when it comes down to it, I think the SP is going to be really fun because it's like you have some depth, but you really can't get lost in that depth like you
Right.
can in a DAW, which that's the part that kind of messes me up with DAWs sometimes.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that for sure. It's hard for me to kind of relate to getting lost in the DAW because for me, I love options. I love being able to say, um, man, I want to add this type of compression. Um, so thinking about the SP, and to mention something you just said a little bit ago, the EQ in the SP, it's just a simple 3-band EQ. You got low, mid, and high,
Hmm.
which is great for a lot of people that really don't know much about EQ, but they can
Yep.
jump in and say, well, if I boost the lows, it obviously will add more oomph to my, or low end to my kick drum or my bass lines, so that kind of thing. But when it comes to options, man, I love options. I just love the DAW and just being able to put different flavors where I want them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the SP, it's going to be cool to just kind of sit in that environment, in that box, and do what that box does. I think that's going to be so much fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't. I'm gonna. Yeah, I don't know. We just keep talking about the SP. Like it's like, man, we
Yeah.
can't wait. It's like when
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
here, but yeah, totally. And I mean, I like getting lost in that stuff. Well, I shouldn't say that because that's not what you were saying. But I like having the options too. And there's definitely times where I'm like, man, it would just be so much easier if I was in a DAW to do this or that.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
and that's one thing I love
Yeah.
about Koala now is they finally. It wasn't like this before, but they have updated it so you can very easily bring your stems into a DAW, multiple ways actually.
Mm.
So that's cool. I need to just get back into the hang of, okay, I've done what I can in this machine or in this app. Now let's bring it to the DAW and just clean it up enough to send it out to the world. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So I was going to ask you another question. So when it comes to drums,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on how your drums should sound? Like for me, I'm very staccato, so I don't want anything really ringing out for a long time. I don't want snares to go craw,
Yeah.
craw. I just want just a just a nice tight snare. I'm really staccato. I like stuff really short and to do what it's supposed to do. So if it's a kick,
Yeah.
I want that low end there. I might want some roundness with some filtering. I don't want it maybe too punchy. It just depends on the track. But for the most part, I'm very staccato in the way I like things to sound in my head, because hi-hats, I have a lot of things going on with the hi-hats. The snare, I want all of that real staccato, real short, so that I can express all of that energy within the drum track. So how do you look at drums when it comes to like your sound, your sound per se?
Well, in some ways, I tend to be kind of like you as well. Like, I mean, I've done a lot of drums with long tails and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but I do tend to look for the staccato, and I do tend to, bring back the envelope and stuff
Yep.
to clean it
Yeah.
up and
Yep.
things like that.
Yep.
And if I want more to it, I can put that on a different track.
Mm.
So like, but one thing I do like to do, which actually I've heard you do a bunch too, and I think this is where the pots and pans thing comes in, is have some layers of percussive elements
Yeah.
kind of within that context as well.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
really
for
like
sure.
that. And
Yep.
sometimes that nice long tail, or that long tail,
Right.
like you said, within the context of certain beats,
Sure.
it does sound good. Because like whenever I say I don't like that long tail, I always think of like, I always think of like Shook Ones or something. A
Oh
lot of
yeah, yeah.
mob,
That
a lot
comes
of
to
Mob
mind.
Deep
Exactly.
beats
Exactly.
have it, and it's like
Yeah.
so
Yep.
dope the way they do it. But
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure. Definitely. I can't argue with you on that. That's for sure. As a matter of fact, when you said that, like the Shook Ones, that snare
yeah.
instantly comes to my mind. Instantly. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Usually I don't go for snares like that.
Yeah.
I don't do a long ringing tail snare like that. But obviously there's times for it,
Yeah. And
But
sometimes like you can be more surgical with it too. Like you can put it, like one thing I'll do a lot of times with especially snares is, I'll have one be just like kind of one plain sound, and then the second one will be like a layered one, and then back to the plain one. I kind of go back and forth. And the same thing with the long tail. Sometimes you can put that in certain parts just to bring in a certain effect.
yeah, or to fill up empty
Mhm.
space. Kind of how I think Mob Deep used it in that beat. It's like that snare kind of fills the void of the track. It's like there's some emptiness there where that snare plays out really well.
Totally.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and this is all subjective. It's all a matter of personal taste. We're you know, anyone watching this is a producer. You're a producer. I make beats. We're producers. It's all subjective. It's all about taste and what you do. My taste. I mean, we could come back here next week, and I'm like, man, I'm only using long tail snares now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's just all a part of the progress or the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And one thing too, just to add a little bit of like one of the things I like to do is I like to just be kind of experimental too.
Yeah, that's
Where
true.
like you said you really kind of have a goal of how your drums. For me, like one of the
Mhm.
things I like to do, I've done in the past at least a few times, is sometimes you can just like put some crazy like tape delay or ping pong delay
Yeah. Yep.
on drums, and that'll
Yeah.
add some more like
Yeah. Yep.
percussive stuff to it. And
Right.
man, I love that. I just like texture. I like glitchy stuff, and so
Hmm.
you know I kind of go all over the place.
Yeah, and that's to kind of point back to the whole thing. This is all it's
Yeah.
all on a personal basis. What you're feeling at the time, and I think everything you're saying is dope.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, experiment definitely. Don't get locked into a specific mindset, because then you're like kind of it's a little counterintuitive, because playing with things and experimenting could be just that one thing that makes something super dope.
True. Yeah. And the thing is you can't experiment with every element. I mean, trust
No.
me, I do. I
Yeah.
overcook, and it sounds like the jungle's coming at you. But you know, you gotta like. I feel like you kind of have locked in the drums you like and the way you like it sounding. I'm glad you did because it freaking sounds so sick.
Man, thank you.
You know,
Yeah,
but maybe you're more expressive and experimental with the guitar, you know, and that's where you're experimenting right now. So,
yeah, yep,
you know,
yeah, yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
cool. Well, man, everybody who's listening now or after the fact, please, you know, let us know what are some of the drum techniques you use and stuff like that. Because you know, I'm always happy to learn more and see what other people are doing. I know we didn't even mention like a whole bunch of different approaches that people use. So I'd love to hear what you guys do as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah,
Cool,
man.
man. Well, um, you know, I think we talked about drums for a little while. Is there anything you want to say, you know, before we get going?
Um, hmm.
Anything you
No,
want to
not.
point to or anything like to promote or anything?
I'm on TikTok now. Upright dot music.
Nice.
Yeah, so upright dot music. You'll find me.
Check that out then. Now I have to get that link in the description too, so I'll have to find that.
Word.
Um, And you guys can find me now on Instagram as Marsh Creates. And like I said, I just put out something on Bandcamp, a little 10-song beat sketches thing. Go ahead and check that out. It's free. And the link's in the description. And other than that, you know, we're going to keep hitting you guys with these videos as we feel inspired. So come back and hang out with us, you know.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll talk to you on the next one.
Peace.